we built businesses back to back because you focus on speaking and voice and messaging, and I focus on the content and the design and kind of getting the tech pieces all under control. So essentially outside the person versus inside the person. And we got together, and you just know you like click with somebody. I mean, you obviously do, but like it just works. You're just like, you are my people. You can speak the language. We understood each, like it just worked from the very beginning.
Well, hey friends, welcome back to another episode. Today, it's Fancy Coffee Friday at the time that we're recording this, and it is an epic moment because for the first time ever, we have a 3-time guest on the show. And I'd like to formally introduce y'all to my business partner publicly. Hi, Emily.
Hello. I'm so excited. I didn't realize I was the only third time guest.
It's kind of like I like you or something.
It's kind of like it.
I'm excited. So y'all, if you haven't heard the announcement, last month, at the time of this airing on August 8th, officially announced that my company, Heather Sager Company, I mean, it was just my name, y'all, I have a personal brand, but my company and Emily's company, E&M Creative, came together and we birthed a new business baby called The Speaker Co. And Emily's been on a couple times before. So if you want to hear a little bit more about Emily and her background and her former company, you can do that on those episodes. But here's what's funny. The last time that Emily was on the show, when we talked about craft and commerce, we were totally keeping this secret because we were building the company at the time, but we weren't public. So we had to awkwardly talk about things without telling you that we were building a company behind the scenes. So I'm excited to be totally out with it. How about you?
I am too. I feel like actually craft and commerce was the first time that we were like floating our messaging for the first time to figure out like how we talk about it, how we say it. I think we were in the middle of some branding things and we were making some really like high level decisions, but it was really weird to have that wall of, okay, here are the things that we can talk about behind the scenes and really not talking about anything publicly at the time.
Yeah, it was fun because it was interesting. We're just going to jump right into one of the specific things that we learned there is, when you make decisions in your business, a lot of times make decisions based around our own preferences and our view of things. And when you and I were talking about logistically, there were some really logical reasons for why we wanted to go into business together. But what was funny is as we started talking about it, so many people were curious about like a business partnership. What's that? Like, I'm doing my Buddy the Elf voice, but it really started going down the rabbit hole, and that made us go like, oh, there was actually some very specific reasons for our audiences around why we want to get together. So we're going to get into that today, but I thought it was really interesting because I think a lot of times as business owners, we can talk shop a lot, and we have to remember that at the end of the day, we have to talk about messaging for our audience, which let's get to it. That's exactly the focus of this episode. So full transparency, Emily and I have had record introduction of the Speaker Co. podcast episode on our list since June.
Yep. It's been 3 months.
It's been a minute. And we're finally here. And big believer of timing is a beautiful thing. And we're exactly at the moment we need to record this. But we've been spinning on this for a bit. And so we really wanted to make sure that this episode wasn't just hey, we had some businesses, we got together and here's why. We wanted this to be the most valuable thing. So today what we're going to talk about, what is this company? What is the Speaker Co? Why did we decide to jump into bed together when it comes to serving our audiences? And I think most importantly, what you can expect as one of our wonderful listeners and audience members / potential clients in the future, because we have some really exciting things up our sleeves. And we are building a jumbo jet as we freaking fly this summer. And if you've been following us on social or on our email list, you already see that we've launched a retreat. We've launched the new website. We launched the new blog. The podcast is updated. We have a lot of fun things happening. So we're going to get into all of that today. So Emily.
Yes.
Put you on the spot here.
Okay.
Will you set us up and talk a little bit about, let's talk a little bit about what brought you and I together last fall.
Yeah, I think it was the summer we figured out. We went back, we actually scrolled back in our DMs and it was like August something. Yeah. We did have on our calendar, like our coffee date anniversary. And then I think we just forgot about it. We, I think I replied to one of your stories or something. And we started talking about something. We realized that we were in really complementary spaces and we live 15 minutes apart. So we're essentially in like next door towns. And we had the same go-to coffee place, the same place that we went to get out of the house, to get out of the office, just as a change of scenery. Super, super cute coffee shop called Lark Cafe in downtown West Lynn.
Which is funny. I don't think I told you this, but I had only been to that coffee shop a handful of times before, and it was to meet another gal I had met online. That was like the first. So it was very much an off chance that happened.
Well, it just came together really. Like the timing was perfect. Because at the time I don't even know what I was looking for. I was just like, yay, people. I mean, at this point, it was summer of 2021. We're well into COVID. Things were opening up and we were looking for, and from what you said, you were looking for like meeting people, even though you didn't normally do that. And so the situation where you're like, okay, yeah, let's go make a friend. And we realized that we had very similar backgrounds. We both come from corporate healthcare, both kind of ended up in this online space, have been here for 3 or 4 years. And we're serving the same audiences just differently. My husband jokes that we built businesses back to back because you focus on speaking and voice and messaging, and I focus on the content and the design and kind of getting the tech pieces all under control. So essentially outside the person versus inside the person. And we got together and you just know you like click with somebody. I mean, you obviously do, but like it just works. You're just like, you are my people. You can speak the language. We understood like it just worked from the very beginning. So we became networking buddies after that. So we'd go to like, as events started popping up in Portland, we started going to things together. So we wouldn't have to go alone. And it just kind of went from there. I remember last fall, we were talking about different ways to partner or affiliate. We knew that our audiences needed each other. We were getting requests from our audiences needing each other. So we were figuring out how to partner. And we kind of never really nailed anything down because it didn't seem like enough. And do you want to tell the story of the brunch that changed it all over in the spring? Because that went on for quite a few months.
Yeah, it went on. Well, a question for you before we get into the brunch mimosa question.
Mm-hmm.
Was there any point in time when we started chatting, did you ever have that? Okay, you know how it works, right? When you work on something and you see other people that do similar things to what you do, how we all do this. There's like a tinge of like, but like, do I do it better? Or like there's like that competitive spirit. Did you ever have that competitive spirit jump? We actually haven't talked about this. Did I ever come up at all? Or were you like right out of the gate? This is a person I jive with.
No, because we weren't trying to do the same things. If you had said that you were trying to build a presentation design agency, like we would have had a different conversation. But because
your gloves would have come off.
It would have changed it. But because you were focused on education, and at that point, education was not something that I was building my team, I was building the agency, building our capacity. It was just a cool, like, oh, that's a really interesting way to apply this. And we have such similar approaches to things and similar philosophies. It was just really cool to see that kind of shifted in a way that I had at that point no real desire to build on my own. I didn't realize that was kind of probably planting the seeds for why it worked so well. But I don't know. Did you have that moment of?
This is going to sound weird. These are probably things that I shouldn't say out loud, but we always say the things that we're thinking. I think for a hot minute, like we always have that like tendency, like, ooh, like for me, so personally, you know this, I don't do a lot of one-on-one clients. Yeah. And that's where I think probably you and I would have overlapped, right? So if a client was looking to like get their webinar audited or build a keynote presentation or prep for an upcoming conference, if it's a one-on-one client, we technically would be like direct competitors. And for a hot minute, I remember thinking, I was like, well, crap, I don't do slides. I don't even have, y'all, you're going to laugh at me. I don't even have any deliverables for my clients. Like people pay me for my time where we like get the stories out of their head and we work on their confidence and we craft the stories and we create the outlines and such. But I don't physically do anything, which sounds terrible to say out loud, right? So I think for a hot minute, I was like, oh my gosh, like that got me to question for a minute. But what that helped me clarify was doubling down on that separation you talked about, where that's what you excel really well in is you have the agency model, you were doing the done for you design, you had this really amazing team. I had me and my assistant, and we did everything at scale. So going all in on my program, which was like group coaching and online education, that was a clear differentiator. So I think for a hot minute, I had the tendency that I think we all do, where I'm like, oh, the comparison. And then immediately, I think that difference in business structure quelled that. I don't know. I have really high standards, and I know you do too. And that's another reason why we jived a lot. I think a lot of our people listening will jive with this. I think we all get so, how do I phrase this? I think the people that we work with have really big hearts and they do really, really high quality work, that I think a lot of times competitive comparison and jealousy actually comes from us going like, we want it to be like the best possible for that potential client. So I think, anyways, I think that's where it was coming from. Side tangent. Anyways, let's go to the brunch moment. When was the brunch?
The brunch was we actually did figure this out. April.
Oh,
Like
yes.
April.
Okay. All right. So if you've been a listener for the show for a while, you know that I've done 75 hard a couple times, which is like that crazy intense mindset, physical, blah, 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 whatever, all the things. We won't get into it. But I remember I had just finished my second round of 75 hard, which means I had not had sweets. I had not had alcohol. I had not had any like cheesy, delicious, ooey gooey foods in 75 days. And Emily suggested brunch for our meetup instead of a coffee date, which I'm like, oh, heck yeah. So we met for brunch. It was the end of April of this year. I think it was April 22nd, Earth Day. And we're sitting over brunch. I got there first, and I definitely was like mimosas all around because I was having a drink. And I don't remember what we were doing. I remember you were telling me about some exciting clients you were working with, and you were going off on a tangent in a great way about your ideas for your agency. And I remember we were sitting there, and I was talking about the program and how things were going with Speak Up to Level Up and some of the ideas I had for becoming affiliate launches. And I think, we were chatting around having you come guest teach inside one of the affiliate programs I was doing for Business by Design. And I remember we just paused for a second and randomly, so that night before I had been binge watching Netflix and season 2 of The Home Edit had just come out. So Joanna and Clea were like in my brain, fancy closets. I don't remember which rerun I was watching, but anyways, I remember sipping champagne, and I looked at you and I said, wouldn't it be cool if we became like the Joanna and Clea of presentation design, and we could like go into people's homes, i.e. businesses, and clean up all their crap and help them create the most epic messaging that they could pull from over and over again, and they could make all of this freaking money. Oh my gosh, we can make all of this money. And that came out of my mouth without thinking, which is typically how conversations work in my world. And you stared at me, and I wasn't quite sure what was going to happen. So from your take, what happened next?
My wheels were turning. I am very much Heather and I have learned this over the last several months. She is an external processor. I'm an internal processor. We figured out ways that we have to communicate in order to help us both be able to process in an effective way. So yeah, no, that tracks. I just stared at you. I also was just fun little detail. I was wearing like a headband, like a classic Joanna headband.
With,
so
like,
it was
the giant, like not the giant bow, but like it had like it had
little knot
fabric things up. Yeah.
I was intrigued because at that point I was probably the updates I'm sharing with you. The first quarter of the year is typically our highest booking of the year because everyone is super excited, like all these big projects they want to execute. So we get a ton of bookings, and we're booked like 4 or 5 months out. So like agency hits capacity the first few. So I was coming off of that. And what has happened the last few years is that's been a really key point where I've tried to figure out how to grow, how to scale. So this is the point where I've added team members, or I've added whatever, expanded our services, done things differently. And so I was trying to figure out how to get through this again. And so that's probably what you're talking about. So when you said that, I think my brain was going to, this could be the way to grow this, to scale this. Because at that point I had several of my clients that were interested in your now former program, Speak Up to Level Up. We'd sent them your way. And I knew that it fit. And so my brain was just like, this could work. Like this could be a really, really cool thing. This could be the thing. And I hadn't really thought about it that way. And what's interesting, and I've told you this since then, is I've had a couple of different speaking coaches over the last 4 years come up to me and say like, hey, we need to partner on this. Hey, we need to partner on this. And it's like, okay, maybe, but like, I don't quite drive with them, or we're not totally aligned on our philosophies, or, something's just something doesn't sit right. But with us, it's always been so easy and natural and makes sense. And I was like, what if we did that? Let's explore. And so I know in that brunch, we had conversations about like, what do you like to do?
Okay,
What do you
hold
enjoy?
on. I believe the exact thing that you said was you stared at me and you said, yes.
I don't think I said it like that.
It was, and then obviously there was backup conversation, but it was an immediate groaning, enthusiastic yes. Not in the
think
that's
it
like a
was-
monster voice. I'm sorry, that was a monster voice. You did not.
That was like creepy bombs. Yeah, I don't think it was quite like that, but it was yeah, less creepy.
Less
But-
creepy, more excited. And what's funny about it in the whole external processing things, I'm sure y'all have gotten this by now. I say things out loud as I'm thinking them. So in that, I hadn't put any thought into that. That wasn't something I had been sitting on. It wasn't something like, okay, y'all, I am on human design, which Emily officially got me to actually take a few weeks into this conversation. I'm a manifester, which essentially means I have ideas. I don't run them past other people. I don't think about other people. I'm like, I'm going to do something and I go, like I think and say things out loud and go build. So the idea of working with another person or working for another person was like nowhere on my radar or even of interest to me. So the fact that that flew out of my mouth was just actually pretty ironic in itself. But it did lead into a conversation. So let's take it brunch. We like, what if for a second played, but then we were both like, no. I
think we both realized, we're like, okay, this would be really cool. And we're like, we could like low key take over the world doing this. Like we could do awesome things. But we were at that point, like we both had very large, successful businesses. So it was not a small decision. And I think that was the point where we recognized it, where it's like, okay, if we're going to do this, there's going to be a good amount of due diligence that we're going to have to do, both in how our businesses fit together, but also how we work together, how our audiences are going to really making sure that it was going to work kind of on all the levels.
Yeah.
And that's really what we spent the next, I would say probably month or two just having conversations around, was making sure that it worked at all the levels.
Yeah. One of the things that we're not going to go into all the details of all the things, but I remember we figured out, I think pretty quickly. So we met in person a couple times, right? Where we were having these conversations to brainstorm out, and then we'd go back and think. And then we'd be like, oh, not really sure. But we had a breakthrough moment. I just want to talk about this for just a moment. You mentioned that you're an internal processor and I'm an external processor.
Mm-hmm.
And we figured out very quickly, this comes back to one of our core things, which is effective communication, was understanding that we think and process and communicate differently, that if we were going to make it work, we had to figure out our style. Do you want to riff on that just a little bit around kind of what we noticed and how we made it work for us?
Yeah. So I, in human design, I am a projector. So I like, if anybody knows about that, I like take all the things in and I like, it's the guide, let's do it this way, whatever. I don't know. There's a whole bunch of stuff in human design, but I very much like take things in and I like my brain puzzle pieces them out. And so it's like my brain just kind of works to puzzle piece things. And then the things that I say, I have the answer. I'm like, no, I fixed it, I solved it. And so it was interesting because we had, like you said, a couple of those in-person sessions, and you were externally processing, and my brain, I was like trying to keep up. Like, wait, but 10 minutes ago, we were going this way. What do you mean? Yeah. And so you were taking my words as external processing, and you thought I was just like riffing and randomly saying things. And I thought that you were saying things that you like genuinely 1000% meant. And we were like, what? This is not working. What? I don't what did we go backwards? What is happening? And so I know that was, I think, a Monday, and I think we had a conversation on a Wednesday where it's like, we need to figure out something wasn't right. Let's figure out what went wrong. And I actually think this is one of our biggest strengths in how we communicate, is that we can listen to those kind of instincts, and something isn't clicking, and we can have very open and honest conversations about them. But what we realized was that we needed to set ourselves up a little bit differently so that you had space to externally process, and I had space to process too without the pressure of like a direct in-person conversation moment. And we had to kind of get our training wheels a little bit with that. We're a lot better about it now, but especially at the beginning, it took some practice because we weren't used to having to share our ideas with anybody else. We're used to just having them and going and doing the thing.
Yeah.
We built our businesses on our own. So that was kind of the default mode for so long. So it was different in a lot of ways for us. And what we realized was that using a tool like Voxer or voice messaging over text was actually better for us because we could just say all of the words and I could have time to sit and respond. You didn't feel like you were watching me think and wanting to fill the gap with more words. And you could just get all your rambles out and then get to the end and be like, okay, actually, I didn't mean any of this. I think we need to do this instead. And so it gave us both space to process in the way that we need to without putting pressure on the dynamic. And so we could get through some of these other communication pieces, get through some of these other decisions, get through these conversations that were necessary at the point without our communication styles getting in the way of that.
Yeah. And I love this. And I'm going to go on a detour real quick around how this plays out. And one of the things that I saw immediately of this being a strength for the new company, the communication style piece, I've always been an external processor. And one of the things that I notice is when I work with clients, there's been, I typically, we all attract people that are similar to us, right? So when I think about the clients that I've worked with, the students that I've worked with a lot of external processors, but I've also worked with a lot of internal processors. And I've noticed that my style, I can make it work. But one of the really powerful things that I noticed, and this is why I think our partnership is so wonderful, is because we have inherently different communication styles, we can help our clients more effectively ideate, come up with their messaging, figure out how they can more effectively talk to their teams and their businesses. So that was something that I saw out of the gate because that difference in style, my brain clicked immediately and said, oh my gosh, knowing this piece of just that awareness level between us / the different skills that we bring immediately is going to help people in this new business. Because here's the thing, like, you know how so many freaking digital courses and programs, the person builds it using their style where they're like, just fill in the blank here, or just put this together here. And then you're left wondering like, okay, but like, how? Or what? And it's like that processing of like thinking, going into the idea mode and then applying. It's different for each person. So that was like something, this is my side note around, I think we all need to be thinking about that in our business. I mean, we're not recommending y'all go out and find some partnerships here, but the idea of like acknowledging that the way you communicate and come up with ideas for things, like your clients are going to be operating in different ways. So that's why I think we came up pretty quickly with some themes around how, like, what was central as we built this new brand and the Speaker Co. Like, what were the things we really wanted to focus on? And the 3 words that kept coming up are 3 C's. We're still figuring out how to like formally roll this out in our messaging, but the 3 things that kept coming up for us was this idea around full ass commitment. So commitment, connection, and communication. So why don't we go there for a moment? We just talked a little bit about communication. Do you want to riff on that for a moment?
Yeah. So we actually came up with these when we were standing in the airport in Portland, going to Boise for Craft and Commerce. This was a June conversation that it locked into place pretty early on, and it really guided a lot of how the rest of the transition kind of came together. These became sort of our guiding principles on a lot of things, and making sure that they stayed both front and center in how we wanted to build things for our clients, but also in how we operated things on the back end. So that communication, really what we figured out is that, or what kind of locked into place was that these 3 C's, commit, connect, and communicate, are really infused in everything that each of us does with our clients. There's that both on the internal side of things and on the external side of things. On the internal side, there's really committing to yourself to show up, committing to yourself to be brave and speak and use your voice in front of other people, which can be terrifying. There's that connection and really connecting to your why and your core ideas and connecting to your message, so that you can communicate it in a way that really resonates with people and that authenticity shows through, and then being able to communicate that out. So knowing what words to say, knowing what your body language needs to be, that communication from how you are projecting things. And then externally, it's committing to your committing to your audience, committing to your message, getting your audience to commit to your ideas, connecting your ideas to your audience. So it's really kind of that internal, and then how does everything kind of come out and bring your audience along for this journey? Because that's what every talk is you're picking your audience up from somewhere at the beginning of the talk, and you're taking them on a journey. It's an experience. It's something that they're wanting an outcome from it. They're wanting something from listening to you, from hearing you, from learning from you, and you're their guide. And so being able to help them commit to that journey, to connect to what you're sharing, and then to be able to communicate what they want afterwards, what they need afterwards, or communicate whatever it is they communicate. But it really kind of came down to these three things were everywhere. They're infused in how you craft your visuals. They're infused with how you craft your story, how you plan your overall talk experience, how you carry yourself on the stage. It was this really cool aha moment. I can actually envision exactly where we were in the airport. We were waiting outside our gate, and we wrote it down because we knew it was important. And at that point, we didn't even really fully understand the full depth of it. It took some thought and some brainstorming and just letting it like marinate for a little bit to really see how much it truly is infused in everything. And we haven't exactly figured out how we want to talk about them. This is really the first time that we're kind of talking about it out loud and publicly outside the two of us. But it's such an important, there's such important concepts that are key to being able to be successful on stage, and, getting your audience to, not really getting your audience to do anything, but inviting your audience to connect with you and to engage with you and to act on the thing that you're hoping to inspire them to do.
Yeah, yes, you said that so well. For the first time, us saying things out loud on a quote unquote stage, you did nailed it.
Oh,
Yeah, I remember on that. I don't remember staying at the gate talking about it, but I remember immediately after when we were on the flight, we were on one of those little tiny planes. I remember it's the first time in a very long time that I talked through an entire flight. I'm not a flight talker. I'm a take out my hearing aids and not talk to anyone kind of person and have quiet time. So I remember that. I'm like, we mapped out so many things on that flight I think we were using my Remarkable and just like drawing everything out. So that was really good. I think, let's actually side note, let's talk about that. I just dropped my hearing aids piece. This was something that also was really unique when we were figuring out different connection points that we have. So fun fact, I am a partially deaf speaking coach. So y'all, if you are new or listeners on the show, or maybe you're coming from Emily's world, I wear hearing aids. I've worn hearing aids for not quite 15 years, 13 or 14 years. I have a whole podcast episode if you want to hear more about my hearing loss. We'll link about it in there. But a speaking coach, teaching people how to use their voice, but I ironically can't hear. Emily, what's your weird thing?
I am a colorblind presentation designer. So I cannot see colors accurately, which is fun fact why E&M Creative never did branding, because I don't pick colors. But what it makes me really good at is, so technically I'm color deficient. So my dad's colorblind and my mom's dad is colorblind. So it was very, very likely that it was going to happen. But I don't see colors as brightly as other people do. So everything in my world is just a little less saturated. What that does is it actually makes me a built-in contrast tester for presentations. So I am better at, my eyes are essentially designed to be able to see if colors are going to work well together. So when we get any client branding, I can look at the palette and say, okay, these colors will work, these ones won't, because your contrast on, if you're doing something virtually and your people are going to be on a monitor, you don't know what their brightness is going to be. You don't know what their settings are going to be. If you're doing it on stage, if you have a projector, your contrast is going to be way down and you don't want people to not be able to see what you're doing. So it's a whole thing about accessibility that I've actually been able to turn into a strength. But it's funny that we should be less able to be successful in what we do, but we've really turned them into our strengths.
Yeah. I mean, it's technically speaking on both fronts, they're both invisible disabilities. Like and that actually will pivot us into talking about some of our guiding principles and values for our company that really are important. And we really encourage that y'all think about how this plays into your world when you're thinking about building community in your business and your audience. But that piece, when we both talked about, so with you with accessibility, with slide design and visuals, one of the things that I've always been really hot and bothered around is when it comes to speaking, so many people forget around accessibility for people with hearing. And I think a lot of times it's really easy anymore with virtual speaking. People are like, oh, closed captions. Well, here's the funny thing. Y'all, closed captions wasn't even possible on Zoom until there was a huge uproar during the pandemic where it was like, hello, this is illegal. Like, we need this to be available for more people, which now, side note, y'all, closed captions available for every version of Zoom. You just need to churn it freaking on so that people have access to that. But I think there's a misconception that people just think that, oh, only if you're completely deaf, people need to have those things. And that's just not true. There are so many, like millions and millions and millions of people around the world who have hearing deficiencies, or they struggle with processing information. And the idea of hearing someone speak and trying to keep up with it is difficult. So having access to closed captions, or when you are speaking at a conference, and you're like, oh, I don't need a microphone, I'm a loud talker. Or conversely, you raise your hand at a conference and you shoo away the mic runner and say, oh, I don't need a microphone, I'm a loud talker. You're totally making it about yourself. I don't care if you're a loud talker or not. You're robbing so many people with the opportunity to engage in your question and keep up with the conversation. So I'll get heated. I won't go down a tangent about this one anymore. I talk about this in other podcast episodes. But what you can hear with this is both Emily and I, because of our experience with invisible disabilities, that people would never know that we have these things. It's actually shaped how not only we operate as humans, but it's shaped how we teach. And I think that's something that's really, really unique when we think about helping other people with speaking. Having that level of awareness and inclusion is so, so important to us. So let's actually weave that into, we have some brand values that we were talking about that are really, really critical. We weave that one into something that we call openness. So you want to talk about, let's go through some of these for a hot minute.
Yeah.
Actually, we don't have to start there. What is your favorite one of our core brand values?
My favorite one is simplicity.
Oh, talk about that.
Yeah, because my brain has a tendency to not overcomplicate things, but go immediately into the details. So I like the high level, but my brain jumps into like, okay, but how are we going to make it happen? That's one of the things that we balance really well in each other. But that coming back to simplicity gives me a starting point, which I really appreciate. And so it's actually been really, really helpful and really key in how we've been able to build this plane, or as I like to say, we had two existing planes and we're just merging them midair. But
it's a thing, people. It's totally a thing.
New saying. Simplicity is my favorite because it really helps us. It comes down to so many things, and how we want our audiences to show up, how we want to show up, how we want our audiences to experience the brand. We want it to make sense and be easy and feel accessible. And simplicity really comes down to when we think about how we work with our clients, it's that like what's that main message? What's that core message? Which I do this all the time with design and with figuring out the structure of talks. And so being able to take that idea of like, okay, but what's the main thing? What's the thing? What's the thing that goes on the billboard? And being able to do that over and over again in our business, really get to the heart of it, is something that I really value and really love being able to do together, because we can figure out what is simplicity for us? What is simplicity for the Speaker Co? And let that be a kind of a guide forward.
Yeah. And I think for me, it also is a really good reminder. I think a lot of times in this online business space, as business owners, we have the constant need to reinvent. We also want to learn and absorb and be around all the other business owners, which means our brain is always going a mile a minute with all these ideas. And it's really easy to get swept up in the different program ideas or offer ideas or tactic ideas and Frogger hopping from one thing to the next, trying to figure out all the things around how you can best show up, share your message, help people. It's all in good intentions. But at the end of the day, when we're thinking about all those things and we don't have the discipline to say, but like, what's the one thing that's going to make the biggest difference? That I think is actually one of the hardest things to do as entrepreneurs, because we have all the ideas, but it is the biggest needle mover. So I think we're operating with that in our business. And literally every single day, I swear we have one of those moments of going like, okay, we need to apply the simplicity rule. Like, we're overcomplicating this. Like, how do we boil it down? And the answer always becomes super clear when we ask that question. So, okay, simplicity is the first one. Our second main value, which I think is one of the most important, which is we have fun. But we'll kind to blend that in and say what we wanted to do is when we, I think one of the things that really aligned us that we wanted to double down on when we started our brand together was our brand being authentic and real and being something that people wanted to be around. So let me hear your take on that for a moment, and then I'll riff.
Yeah, I'm also curious to hear yours on this. So, it's so funny because we have such different approaches to how how we face the world and how our brands face the world. So I built E&M Creative because I don't super love marketing. It's not my jam. So I built it based on referrals and it was great. And it was, big company team, all that. But I built it so that me feeling authentic and real is being able to connect with clients and be able to have those more personal conversations, not just like speak to the world, where we're very much the opposite that way, I think. And so to me, it's that whatever authentic and real feels for you as an individual, figure out what that is and double, triple down on that, because that's where you're going to feel the most aligned. That's where you're going to, go down the journey that you're supposed to go down. You're going to find the people that you're supposed to find that connect with who that person is, whoever that is. If I had tried to be you, there's no way I would have been successful, and vice versa, because it didn't feel right. But us being able to come together is we can kind of bring both sides of that. But it's so hard when you are in, especially in the online business world, where it's similar to that simplicity problem where you get, there's a new thing over here, an oh shiny over here, or a new tactic here, or this new platform that you're supposed to be on over here. But figuring out which ones of those actually make sense for you, which ones feel right for you as a human, that's where the magic happens. And so that's what that value means to me for both us and for our clients.
Yeah, I think the word we both cringed because the word authenticity is so overused. It actually is kind of counter effective, but it was the best word to really think about. But what the thing that immediately comes to mind for me when I think of authenticity is, you probably have this happen with your clients in the past too. Someone will come into a coaching session or something, and they'll have they'll deliver the thing that they want to practice. And you notice immediately their body language changes, their facial expressions change. It's like, I liken it to, I don't know if your mom had this growing up, but my mom could be like screaming bloody murder at me and my siblings. And then the phone would ring and she would answer the phone and she would go into, hello, this is Clara. Like moms have nailed down the outward facing telephone voice.
Yep.
I think every business owner has a version of that where they will be laughing, shooting the shit before whatever call. And then it goes time to practice. And then they go, okay, here we go with that. And it's like the whole thing changes. And one of the things that I have learned, and I've talked about this on the show before, is helping people understand, okay, how would you say it if you were 3 margaritas deep? Or how would you say that to a friend? Or tell me what you're trying to say. And that's when somebody goes into explaining what they were trying to say and start talking like a normal person and using the weird ad lib or the kind of crazy phrasing, all of a sudden you lean in and you're more interested because you're like, that's you. So I think the same thing is true, for us as we build the business / when we think about who we want to work with and just thinking about things in general, is helping people unlock that realness. And we don't mean casual, you have to show up all the time totally disheveled. That's not really authenticity, unless that's how you look all the time and you want to do that. But authenticity is more of talking as a real human and connecting people in a real way, because I think especially in marketing, people are craving that more than ever. And again, it's not about being super casual. It's just using language and vocal tone and visuals that are oh, I'm talking to a real human, not a Canva produced polished version outsourced to a copywriter, which we love copywriters. We leverage copywriters, right? But you know what I mean with that. So,
and I think there's also there's kind of the two ends of the spectrum. There's the phone voice, and then there's the show up in your pajamas. And the answer is not necessarily either, because you can show up and be more relaxed, and if that's your brand, if that's your vibe, that's great. But you also still need to have some sort of strategy in it. And I think that is where that authenticity has to show up as you're still running a business. You still have goals that you're trying to reach. And so figuring out, that's so hard to do. It's so hard to, you're like, no, but I'm relaxed. I'm good. I'm chilling. This is my vibe. This is how I do it. But figuring out how to weave that into what's going to drive results is tricky. It's tough. But once you find that lane and once you figure out what it feels like and you come back to it over and over again, you can't imagine doing it another way.
Mm. Okay, I don't know why, but the metaphor that just came to mind for me, I'm like, I need a food metaphor. But okay, what I think about is, okay, take food trucks, for example. Okay, like a good food truck. We have a lot of food trucks here in Portland, so
Yes.
we're big fans. A food truck, the ones that do really, really well, the food is so freaking delicious. They could sell it for really expensive amount of monies in a restaurant and be very, very successful. But they choose to put it in a freaking truck and sell it on the side of the road, probably still for a lot of money. I mean, food trucks are really high priced, but the package, but like the substance of it is so freaking good. And I think that was what came to mind as you were talking about that, is there has to be a strategy around it, but the substance of what we talk about, what we speak, our content, it has to be like high dining level quality that's like craveable and delicious and people want it. But the package, you can think about, do you want to show up more as a food truck? Do you want to show up more as like a fine dining restaurant? Do you want to show up as a strip mall thing? All of those can be very successful 5-star Yelp reviewed restaurants, but they just serve different people with different personalities and different vibes. But the non-negotiable is the freaking food has to be delicious. So there we go. There's a metaphor. We're going to have to use that somewhere in our content.
I love that. I love that so much.
Okay. So that goes with, last couple of core values. One of them is an intentionality. I think we hit on that. You got to be really intentional in your message, but just everything we do. I think it's just really easy to, people get swept away in other people's priorities. And I think as business owners, we have to be rooted in that. But I want to go into these last two. The openness, I think this is one that is super, super important, especially going into a business partnership. This was like a fundamental for us. So openness is one of our core values. And we look at it in two ways. One, openness to new ideas and openness to like, a lot of things open. I want you to elaborate on that. But also openness to like, we have an open room for people. Like everyone is welcome in our room as long as they are here with the same heart, right? And have similar values. And so like inclusion is super important to us. So I'm curious, openness, we haven't talked a lot about that one, but what comes to mind for you?
Yeah, like you said, it's kind of the two. There's the openness in kind of how we run things because we bring different experiences, different ideas, sometimes different preferences to the table. So being open to having those conversations and hearing the other person out and really reevaluating our own ideas, our own beliefs, our own kind of decisions that we had made before. Maybe there's a better way to do it or a different way to do it that works better here. So being open to that just in how our kind of interpersonal communication works has been really, really key for the success of this. But then the openness, really, I think when we added this, it was primarily around that inclusion and that accessibility. And we want everyone to feel like they take up the same space. It's what we do is for everyone. It can help everyone. It does help everyone. And making sure that that is communicated in all ways, in every step of the way. So we want people to feel like they're invited in, want them to feel welcome when they're there, and feel welcome to come back when they leave. And so it's really just making sure that there is a space for everyone and that everyone feels like they've got that space, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. I think it's interesting. I never thought that, I don't even know how to phrase this. Accessibility and always thinking about people's comfort and their ability to participate in training sessions. That's just always been ingrained, like in how I operate, because the hearing loss, same thing for you, right? It's like, it's like a duh moment of it's having that as a value / making it something that we outwardly talk about a lot. It makes perfect sense because it's the thing is like when you live with a different way of operating and you adjust how you show up, how you communicate, how you interact. It's so obvious for you, but we sometimes forget about that. We need to like outwardly teach that to other people. And so I'm actually really excited about that a lot more. In fact, as we've been sharing our stories and talking to people, we've actually started getting people asking us to come talk about accessibility when it comes to presentations. So I'm excited about that.
Mhm.
I'm most excited though about our last core value, which I may have shoved this one on our list, but I feel like we jive really well on it. Is the current screensaver on the back of my phone. And that is, we always go full ass. So let's talk about that. Full ass goes, essentially it means we don't half-ass things. We go full ass, which is a complete and total commitment, which I think is exemplified by the fact that we had this business idea on April 22nd and fully disintegrated our brands and launched a brand new brand on August 8th. Y'all, that's like a 3-month run there, which seems wild to say, but it makes perfect sense. And I think a lot of that is because we originally decided like, oh, we'll try out like doing a program launch together. And we very quickly decided that in order for us to truly serve our audiences and help people get their message out, double down on it. Like, we're going to go full ass on this and make it happen. So it's not just about full ass about our company, but it's the idea that when people, when we do something, like, success is determined by your level of full assness. We'll quote that one somewhere, but really, like, I think about this with like launches, for example. So people who sell in their business, which is probably all of you listening, how many times I hear business owners go like, I hope my launch goes well, or I think I'm going to try this. And they use the word, I'm going to try some things out. And I always say, like, if you try something, you either do it or you don't. Like, the trying thing just doesn't happen. Who says that? Is that a Yoda thing?
I don't think it's Yoda.
Somebody says that. I think it's in a Star Wars movie. I have no idea. Maybe it's not.
I don't know. It is a quote.
I don't. Yeah. Anyways, y'all know what I'm saying. Full ass. It is the commitment of the year. I'm curious your take, Emily. What has that meant for you?
Yeah, this actually has been it's been really interesting because, one, it's just how we approach things, but it's also been a really interesting decision-making metric for us. So we have a lot of ideas. They're not all great, but a lot of them are. Like, we have a lot of ideas that we have been, sitting on ourselves for the last few years. And now it's like, oh, this is the perfect time to do that thing I've always wanted. So we've got this big, big pool of ideas. We cannot just do all of them at once. We should not do all of them at once. And so we've been kind of able to use this value of going full ass as okay, can we go full ass on this right now? What's our priority? If not, that's fine. We'll just push this down and it's a thing for 3 months from now. So it's helped us to be able to not lose our minds in how much we're deciding to do, because we want to do a lot of things, but very big plans for the coming years. And being able to get there is a marathon that sometimes feels like a sprint, but it is a marathon. And so it's helped us kind of figure out what those segments are. What are those pieces? And so we can focus on going full ass into each thing, and not split our attention. So really, it's been something that it's that commitment to, yeah, dissolving our businesses and doing this. And really, I mean, beyond just the fact that it's something that our students need, our clients need, we just wanted to, like, we got into it and we're like, I don't want to do it another way. This is the way that we want to do it. So we had to commit to each other, that we were going to do this. But it's really been a tool for how we've been able to navigate the transition and how we're going to navigate rolling out things in the future, is figuring out what we can really, really commit our attention to and what we want to commit our attention to.
Yeah, I love that. That prioritization piece, that has been huge, because I think just asking that question is, can we fully commit to this? And if there's any hesitation, it's a no, or not right now. So I love it. That's been really helpful, especially with my idea brain. I have ideas all the time.
A lot of ideas.
I only send about 30% to you via Voxer. So I hold some in. I try to filter. Okay, let's talk about, with this full ass piece. I want to round out this conversation with y'all. By the way, I hope this has really been helpful. I know I love listening to podcast episodes. I'm always thinking, like, what do I like to listen to? I like to listen to just casual conversations from other business owners. I'm always very curious around how other business owners are thinking. Like what's on their mind? What are they curious? So if y'all are loving this, by the way, we come hang out with us on Instagram. You're gonna giggle. Both of us had built our brands and our businesses, and now we're starting this new one. And so I giggle because I'm like, look at us starting out 0 followers on Instagram. Look at us having humble beginnings. We have like 120 followers on Instagram. Look how our cute little account we're growing.
We did celebrate when we hit triple digits. That was a big thing.
We did. We had a little Voxer, little cheers celebration. But come follow us along on there, and honestly, send us a direct message. Emily and I are managing all of our own social media accounts, but send us a message and let us know what's resonating with you in this conversation, or just if you have curiosities, send them over our way. We'd love to connect with you. But let's wrap up this conversation talking about kind of what's next and what to expect. So, for the speaker company, the Speaker Co. That made me laugh a little bit. When we met with our lawyer to talk through this, he looked at us like we were crazy. He's like, "You're going to call it the Speaker Co, like co?" And we're like,
the co?
"Yeah, like company." He's like, "So it's going to be the Speaker Company." We're like, "No, it's the Speaker Co."
It was a real conversation. We had to go out a couple of times.
It was side tangent for that. But okay, so with the Speaker Co, we have 3 like primary lanes, and we want to kind of tease those out for y'all so you have an idea of what to expect, / if you have questions, reach out to it. But our 3 main legs we have online education. So just formal. I know I've teased at this over the last couple of months, but y'all, my program Speak Up to Level Up that I've been running for 3 years, it's like my prized possession. I love it. It was my baby child. Made the difficult decision to sunset that program. And I think it's one of those beautiful sayings that you have. Sometimes you have to end something beautiful to create space for something even more amazing. And that's where we're at right now. So my existing programs and such are all sunset, and we are going to be building programs together under this new brand. So 1, online education. We'll talk more about that here in a moment. 2, I'm super freaking stoked for this. Something called our Speaker Studio, which essentially is our creative agency where we do done for you work with your slides and all those things. Emily will talk about that. And then 3rd, I can't pick a favorite, but I'm very excited about this one. It's events. We have a vision of wanting to run conferences, retreats, different style events, whether they're virtual or in person. Both of us have a background in that, and they have been instrumental in how we've each built our careers. So we want to create that space too. So online programs, our studio services, and events are essentially the 3 main legs you can expect from us moving forward. Emily, let's talk a little bit about the Speaker Studio, because I know for my audience, they're new to this idea of having access to an agency because, as we mentioned at the top of the episode, I didn't do any of that stuff for my clients in the past. So will you share a little bit about our vision for the studio?
Yeah, so we're really taking a lot of the core operations that were in E&M Creative, and we've just kind of migrated them over to the Speaker Co. So it's going to be kind of 2 lanes within the studio. There's the content side of things, and then the design side of things. The content side of things is really that content consulting. So working on webinars and signature talks and stage, whatever, anytime you're on a stage, helping build that. And then in E&M Creative, we did a lot of course development and building programs. So we'll be rolling that out here in a bit as well. But really, we're focused on those talks. We're in fall conference season right now, and so really focused on helping our clients through all of that on the content development side. And so that's layering and storytelling, figuring out your hook, making sure that you're creating a good journey, that it's strategic, that you're getting the results that you're wanting to get at the end of it. And then there is the design side of it. So we have our design team. They're fabulously talented, and we do slide design so they're all migrated over to the Speaker Co. We're all operating out of that. And so we're taking, I'm really excited. We're like able to kind of level up a lot of the things that I wanted to do before, but shifting over gives us kind of a clean slate to optimize so many things. And so we do slide design in pretty much any software. Primarily our clients want Canva, PowerPoint, Keynote. We also do media kits and workbooks and all the things that go with a talk. It's never just a slide deck. It's all the things that go with it. So we do all of that. I'm really excited. It's going to be awesome. We've got some really, really incredible plans to scale some different ways that we're going to be offering services for new clients coming in the door, and then ways to serve our clients that just need small kind of like onesie twosie things as they use their talks, as they grow, as they expand. So we're very, very excited about that. And it's going to be really easy to be able to bounce between our education and our studio. And that's one of the things that we're most excited about is since it's all under one umbrella, it's going to be really cohesive in the methodologies that we apply and the language that we all speak. It's all going to be standardized. It's all going to be based on best practices it all is based on best practices in the communication space. And so we are very, very excited for that.
This is going to be so good. I think a couple things that come to mind when in this online marketing space, right? Having a business, having a brand, I think a lot of people think that, okay, I have Canva, I can make things pretty. There's actually, this is what I love about your experience and expertise. This is not there's actually a science behind how to create visuals for education, both with speaking, for online education, with all those things. And this is what's interesting is I've been able to get by, and I have a background in photography and design, which is why I can make slides. But the actual science behind slides, being able to put those together for people, I am like freaking crazy town bananas excited over it. I've already had so many people are like, oh man, like, can you do my workbooks for my course, or can you do this? So y'all, just a heads up, we're already booked out through most of October for the studio. So if you are interested, you can head over to speakerco.com. If you just go to our contact page, just send an inquiry over so you can get on Emily's calendar to talk with us. Our freaking team is so good. I'm very excited about the studio. So, but the most pressing thing that's coming up is our new program. So we're not going to go into a ton of detail on this, y'all, because we are officially launching our first combined program under the Speaker Co. It's going to be called the Speaker Society. That officially is opening. We just clarified the doors open on September 27th. So you can expect all of that. We're going to be doing some webinars that week, and we'll be telling you all about it. But we're also going to be doing a sales-based webinar, meaning we're going to teach you how to non-schmuckily sell from the stage and sell off stage. So you guys can expect all of that will be coming up. We'll get you all the info. Just keep listening to the show, or it actually, depending on when you're listening to this, the registration for that might already be up. But Emily, can you just give a little like hintsy around what is the Speaker Society and what people might be like, who this might be for?
Yeah. So the Speaker Society is, I feel like this is our baby. It really is taking the best and the strongest of everything that you and I do and bringing it together into one really cohesive learning experience. So it's a combination of the core curriculum, a community, and tons of other resources, but really guiding people through the process of figuring out what your core messaging is, figuring out how to curate that into something that is effective. It's based in all of the sciencey things that I've talked about, but we take the science and we make it fun and easy and approachable. And like, we have a whole system around it that we've been using. And so we teach that, how to navigate that system, how to build your talk or any talk so that it works, that it resonates, and then how to build all the pieces for it. So going into what are the best practices around visuals? And again, how to make it easy. We don't give you the kitchen sink. We give you everything that you need to be successful and nothing more. And like Heather mentioned earlier, she and I have different, because we have different ways of processing things. And so we've built this so that there are different ways to implement. There's this whole thing with some people jump into kind of creative type tasks more easily, and some jump into analytical tasks a little bit easier. So we offer different ways to implement depending on how you're feeling that day, how you kind of default into things, so that if you try implementing something and you get stuck, there's another option. That's not the only thing. It's not this one weird fill in the blank thing that you're stuck with and you're like, okay, I guess that's it. We give really, really robust tools to be able to implement and get a lot of success. And so it's building everything so that it's easy and I'm just so excited. And then the last piece of it is really taking it and running with it. So how do you take this and how do you turn your talk into a really strong, customizable, repeatable tool for yourself to see growth, whether that growth is leads or sales or visibility or just credibility in your space, whatever your goals are for that. So that was very high level. I don't know if you have another kind of angle that I missed there, but
oh, it's great. I think the biggest thing is this is for you as a business owner, right? If you want to reach more of your clients and you want to make sure that when you're talking about your expertise, you're talking about it in a way that's actually going to help you make sales and serve your audience at the same time. I think one of the things when we were brainstorming around how we want to ensure what we teach is different, There is common knowledge right now in the industry that there are certain ways that you're supposed to layer your message in a launch to get people to buy. There's an actual script you're quote unquote supposed to use on a webinar. There is a direct stack, your pitch stack, to sell from the stage. And one of the things that we've really heard a lot from people, especially in a lot of the conversations we had in the last couple of months, is people are kind of annoyed that they have to follow the quote unquote best practices, but they do it anyways because they think that that's how you actually grow an online business. And it's not true. It is not true. So whether or not you actually want to sell from the stage, or you have digital courses, or you just want to get really good at talking about your expertise and getting your audiences to take action, that our program essentially is going to help you build a talk that helps you and your audience get results. And then how to actually take that and get in front of the right audiences so you can grow whatever it is. You have digital courses, if you have group coaching programs, if you have online services, whatever it is that you have, your talk becomes part of your sales vehicle to make all those things possible. So it's going to be good. I love what you said around the idea that if people get stuck, it's not just a fill in the blank model. I think that's another one, coming back to our principles and philosophies. I think one of the beefs a lot of people have with digital courses and programs is people give you the toolkit based around what worked for them. One of the advantages of society is you're getting both of our expertise and our team with that whole coming from different communication styles and perspectives, so that you won't get stuck and you're able to not only get your message out, but then you can do the same for your audience and help your audience get through their different communication styles. So yeah. I'm excited about that. Go ahead.
And it's not based on your results or my results. It's based on communication science and behavior change psychology. Like, it's based in science and data, and then we take it and we apply it into the online space. And that's what we've both been using, we realized. And so we have taken that, and so we technically have used it, but it's based in our backgrounds in doing this for a living and for other people, and being able to take those, industry best practices into the space that is craving it. So we're excited. We're excited to share this with you because it's going to be so good.
We're going to be like partying it up all month of October with our new members inside the program. So y'all, if you're listening, if you're intrigued, if you just head over to thespeakerco.com, that's where you can get more information about everything we talked about today. You can read a little bit more up on our story / our services. You can join the waitlist for the society, or if you're listening to this while it's open, you can jump us and join us inside. Jump us and join us inside. Yep, that's what I said. Last thing I'll mention, because this is just very, very time sensitive. We are going to be doing events as a company. So I'm just going to do a little peeky here. If you have any interest in being around other entrepreneurs to get out of your normal daily routine, and you're just feeling like this, you need a kick in the pants to get to your next level, you're interested in doing more speaking, or at least getting your message out there, and you want to be around more people so that becomes more likely for you, we have our first ever live event coming up, the Bougie Biz Retreat. It's in October. Depending on when you're listening to this, it might be sold out. So I'm just going to recommend just send us a direct message on Instagram, and we'll have a conversation, get you all the info, see if we can sneak it in. But that's happening real soon. So if you want to get into a live event, it's happening October 21st and 22nd in Phoenix, Arizona. We would love to meet you in real life and help you get to the next level in your business by unlocking some of those things when it comes to speaking, visibility, and the head junk. So with that, I feel like we've talked for a while that I think people are going to be either love us or hate us. And if you hate us, don't leave a review and just, we'll see you never. Emily, let's leave it with this. What are you feeling most excited about moving forward?
I am most excited about the society. Actually, that's what I'm most excited about. This was one of the very first ideas that we had, and it's been in the works for so long that I'm excited for it to be out in the world. What about you?
Yeah, me too. I'm excited about that. Can I sneak peek share our idea from yesterday around calls?
Yeah, our idea that's less than 24 hours old.
Yeah, sure. Okay. She's like, share that on the podcast. So full disclaimer, we have every right to change this idea, okay? But we're going to give you dear listener, first sneak peek at our ideation. We were sitting yesterday, we went to Lark, our favorite coffee shop, and we were talking about finalizing the details of what's included in the society beyond the curriculum. And one of the things we were talking about is, in a lot of online programs, people do quote unquote hot seat calls or coaching calls. And some programs, depending on the coach, they can be fire, but a lot of times they just become very routine. And they kind of lose their luster and their effectiveness, or they're always filled with like brand new people in the program. So Emily and I came up with this amazing idea that one of the best parts about being in a group program is being able to get ideas from other people. But sometimes, it's kind of like a hit or miss of who's in the room. So one of the cool things that we're going to do in the society is you actually get live coaching and feedback on your content. Like we will review your stuff, help you come up with your stories, all those things. You'll get that live coaching and feedback. But we're also doing something called the Ramble Room, which is leveraging breakouts, where on our coaching calls, we'll do coaching, and then you'll actually go out into breakout rooms to model what you just learned. You'll actually ramble out your ideas on all the calls, which might sound terrifying, but trust me, you're going to love it. But you ramble it out loud so you can start knocking these ideas out of your head to test how they sound, because that's how you become a better articulator of your message. So our calls are going to be really interesting because it's not just going to be a ask Heather and Emily questions and we ramble for an hour. It'll actually be, here's real feedback on your content. And then you get to talk it out with other business owners, test out your messaging, test out that articulation. And it's going to be a game changer. So I'm really excited about having that, just a different way to approach live calls, because I think we need a little bit of a shakeup in how programs are run.
Yeah. Well, and one of the things that we've talked about, it's been really actually key in us being able to move so quickly and how we've done this, but being able to talk out our ideas. What is our saying that there's you have to get through the garbage to get to the gold.
Yeah.
Very few of our ideas are fully baked the first time we say them out loud. And that's the same is true of our clients. And so once we really kind of got to that, we really wanted to create a space for that, to be able to have that be part of the program in a way that still felt supported. So you're not just like talking into anything and hoping for the best, but really having a structured way to give and get feedback it's really, really important. And so we really wanted to build that in. And so yeah, our idea yesterday was to weave that into the coaching calls and restructure the calls so that they are driven by purpose.
Yeah. Okay. I love that. I'm so excited. I cannot imagine doing this wild thing we're doing with any other person. I am so grateful for you, and I'm so excited for the cool shit we're building, and I'm so excited for our listeners for the cool shit we're building. We're gonna have so much fun. Thank you. Thanks for coming on, Em. She'll be on the show again, so we'll just answer the question. I posted on Instagram some questions, which we've answered most of them today that came in. One of the questions we got from someone on Instagram was, Heather, what's going on with the podcast? Like, what's that going to look like? No change, y'all. We're still going to be having the same Heather ramble conversations, interviews every single week. What will be different is you'll probably hear from Emily now and then. I'll be like, hey, Em, come on the show and talk to me about this thing. So she'll be a reoccurring guest on the show, but we're going to continue serving you as we do. What you'll notice is the podcast is now housed on our new website, thespeakerco.com/podcast. So that's where you can access all the show notes and get all the great resources we talked about today. But we can't wait. Thanks for celebrating with us. And come send us a message on Instagram and tell us what you think. I don't think we're supposed to say that, but I really am curious. Like, would you come just like go in our Instagram stories and just be like, yay, we're so excited. It's like a little mini house opening party.
Yeah, that sounds good.
All right, guys. We'll see you on the next episode.